Welcome back to the Pursuit Podcast. Today, we're going to be taking a look at how you might be able to get a remote job. And we're going to be really specifically looking at finding a remote job for folks based in Nigeria. I'm here today with
Moyinoluwa Adeyemi. I am an Android developer at Zola Electric. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm so excited to chat to you. I've talked to a lot of people through my community outreach, and a lot of people come to me with the same question. And it's one I've never been able to answer. And there's so many talented engineers, so many talented developers, and so many talented technologists in Nigeria right now, a lot of whom want to find a remote job. Can you tell me a little bit about how you found your first remote job?
Okay, so I'm very actively involved with communities in Nigeria. I've been managing them for about 6 years now. And that's a volunteer role, but it comes with a lot of perks like free attendance to a couple of conferences. And it was one of such Google Developer Groups conferences that I met someone who managed a group in another country. And when I was looking to work remotely, I just reached out to everyone I knew, and one of them landed an intro with the company I'm currently with.
So this sounds like maybe 3 different major steps that you did what sounds like a lot of really focused community work. So a lot of helping other people.
Yeah.
A lot of networking.
Yes.
And like building up a network of folks who wanted to help you out. And then when it came time to look for work, you just asked everybody, did you?
Yes, I did.
Did you find this process really easy? Like how long did it take?
Because I had kept in touch with all the people I meet, I try to keep in touch with all the people I meet, and because that communication line was already there, then it was really easy to just reach out again to ask for help. But one thing I would say is that for developers who are working out of Nigeria or Africa, things are changing now, but before it used to be really difficult for visibility. So I started doing a lot of like articles on Twitter, blog posts, just to become visible. It wasn't too difficult for people to associate me with the role I was currently looking to interview for.
And this is something I hear a lot of developers, a lot of technologists based in Nigeria and based in other parts of Africa talking about, that it feels very hard, and it's hard to get the visibility you need to sort of attract potential employers. You mentioned that you keep in touch with people you meet, and you mentioned that you are writing technical pieces for social media. Can you talk about any tools you used or any approaches you found that were really helpful for that?
That's to write or to keep in touch?
Let's start with keeping in touch first. Yeah, was there anything that you found that was really useful for, I think it sounds a little creepy to say tracking your contacts, but keeping...
Twitter.
Okay.
So Twitter was like my major tool, and like because you can follow people and they don't necessarily have to follow you back. Let's say you put out good content, it might sort of end up on their timeline whether or not they know you, based on if someone in their own timeline tweeted it. That was very helpful for me. So I wanted to share my knowledge. I didn't start out sharing my knowledge because I wanted the role. It was just something I enjoyed doing, figuring stuff out and trying to share to help other people and even myself, because there are instances where I've done something new, forgotten about it, and the next time I needed to do the same thing and I Google search, my blog post came up. That has happened a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing because like, oh, I figured out how to do the thing. And then the next time you do it, you have to search for it all over again.
Yeah.
Is sort of my whole life.
Yeah.
And probably something that's very familiar for maybe our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the idea that you wrote something so useful that your future self needed it.
Yeah, I know. And then it turns out that what you think was a problem only you was facing, a couple of other people too are facing it. And then I used to get my articles sometimes published in Android Weekly.
Oh, wow.
It's a publication for about 60,000 or more developers. So that also helped with visibility. And just consistently doing that for about 4 years now has helped a lot.
It sounds like you're being really successful in that outreach right now, that folks are publishing your work, folks are sharing it. I think a ton of folks follow you on Twitter, and maybe our dear listeners should as well. But was it always easy? Was it challenging in the beginning to get people reading your work and sharing it?
Well, I didn't necessarily start out looking for a lot of people to read. I just like wanted to be consistent with it. Like say every month I try to write an article, although it's been difficult keeping up with that. The joy of like searching for something new to learn and figuring it out, that was my major motivation. And it turns out that people like that. And gradually, I built a follower base. And if I have, say, I do something at work and it was really difficult and I tweet about it and it helps other people, then more people see your tweet and follow you. And then gradually, I got to build that amount of people.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a lot of really, really hard work to sort of invest in this visibility that makes finding jobs a little bit easier. Can we talk a little bit about the job hunting process? So, you said that you built up this network through community work and through putting out really great technical content. Can you talk to me in a little bit more detail? You woke up and you decided one day you were ready for a remote job. Where did you start? Did you email everybody? Did you talk about it on Twitter? Did you ask your best friends?
Well, so I tried to reach out to everyone I knew. Well, I wanted the remote work because I was looking for more challenging things to tackle at work. And I figured like working in an international organization was going to give me that. Before then, I didn't have the experience of working with foreigners, and I wanted to get that as well. So I went to Slack. There's a community on Slack. I had people who I wanted to reach out to. They were already on that channel, so I just sent a couple of them messages, and then I asked some of my friends who either already worked internationally or had or knew people who knew people, and I yeah.
Knowing people who know people sounds like a really valuable first step.
Yeah, networking is important, but the really hard part was getting that visibility.
So when I was first trying to break into tech, people gave me really similar advice. They were like, "Oh, just tell everyone you're looking for work." And I think I tried that, but I think I did a bad job. I just emailed everyone I know, like not a super good message. It's like, "Hey, I'm me. I'm looking for work." How did you reach out to people? Was it individual messages? Was it sort of a big digital version of a group text? How would you approach a contact when you were looking to learn more about remote work, or hopefully have them introduce you to somebody?
Okay, first, I think group texting won't work.
Nice.
Yeah, because it's easy to figure out when someone sent you a generic message. So I think like just narrowing it down to the person, and if you send them a message, let them like say hi and then say everything you want, and like don't say hi and then disappear and wait for a response. And the truth is every people are busy, so I also gave people the chance to like turn me down or not reply. If they were not going to reply, then I was fine with that. I mean, they were helping me out of their own time. And I was like straight to the point, like, hey, I'm currently looking, do you know any roles? And some people said, no, I don't have, but I know someone who is, and those kind of things happen. But generic messages won't work in this instance. And then I think it's just going with the expectation that you might not get a reply, so that if that happens, then you go on to the next person, you know.
So this sounds like a series of really useful strategies. So go ahead and message everybody, but politely. And if they don't respond, don't take it too personally.
Yeah.
How long did you have to do this? So how long were you reaching out to people before you started getting sort of valuable leads back?
Luckily, I didn't have to wait too long. Like I said, most of the people I reached out to knew me already, and they were very willing to help.
Well, because you're marvelous.
Well, maybe they are.
I think there's a lot of marvelous to go around. Everybody in the story so far sounds pretty helpful and good.
Yeah. And most of the people that I reached out to, where I got my major leads from, were not Nigerians who I already knew. So they went out of their way to like help me. and they could already relate to it because I shared some challenges I wanted and like how I was looking for more challenging roles, and they could relate with that. It was very easy for them to link me up with people they knew.
This sounds really, really, yeah, really encouraging. I talk to a lot of people who are having a little bit of a challenging time, that maybe things felt a little bit harder for them. Do you find that there are challenges specifically for folks based in Nigeria or based in Africa who are looking for remote work?
Yeah, well, I think the major thing is the same visibility because it's like if someone random messages you on Twitter, for example, you don't know them, you don't know anything about their work, and they're asking you to help them. The first thing you might want to do is Google them.
Yeah.
And if they don't have like this backlog of things they've been doing or writing about or even tweeting about, then it might be, even if you want to help, it might be difficult because you are also the one recommending. So, like, your name is quite on the line too.
So it sounds like one of the most interesting things, at least to me, one of the most interesting things in tech in Nigeria right now is that there are so many brilliant technologists. There's so much talent there right now.
Mm.
But from what you're saying, that might actually be making it harder for people, that there's so many brilliant people that getting to be visible, getting people to hear you and see your work might be a unique challenge.
That's not the angle I was going from.
Oh,
What I meant,
sorry.
what I meant was that fine, we have like a lot of people here, but if we're talking about remote work, if it's a role in Nigeria, then maybe a couple of people would have heard their names around or at least know who they are.
Okay.
But if you're talking about reaching out to people internationally who don't even know you, and all you have to show yourself is your online presence to at least get a foot in the door, then that will be a big challenge if you don't have that already.
So if you were chatting to someone, let's say you're talking to a developer who's in the situation you were in years back, and they say, "Hey, I really want to work remotely. I want to work maybe for an international company." What would be the first advice you would give them?
Well, first get your infrastructure in place because it's sad, but we have major issues with internet, fast internet connection, and power supply. So first get those sorted out because for anything remote, then that's very important. And then I think they should also start with people they know locally who might be able to introduce them. I was just on the other day on Twitter, I saw that someone got a new role and it was based on another Nigerian in the same company recommending them.
So I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask a couple more questions about these first 2 points, and then we'll dig in a little bit more. When you talk about the need to have really well developed infrastructure, make sure you've got a good internet connection before working remotely. Um, are there any providers you especially recommend?
No, I'm not going to recommend anyone. Like it's been a struggle. So when I started with one and then had to switch to another. And then the provider I'm currently on is quite expensive, but it works. And when I say it works, it's not like 100 Mbps. That's like 10. And well, I
Cool.
can
Yeah.
I can make calls. So. But yeah, it's a big challenge here.
So, like, test out a bunch of ones and find the one you can that's the least terrible. Sounds like it might be the advice.
Yeah.
And then you talked about reaching out to people who are already based in Nigeria, who are working in remote, working in the types of companies you'd like to. Would you recommend that people do a similar thing to you and start doing some community work and build their networks that way? Or are there local meetups or events that you think are really good fits for building your network?
Well, we have a lot more community events in Nigeria. There are some organized by like the Google Developer Group in Lagos. There is Follow Lagos. There is the Android Nigeria Group, and a lot more. But I that also works. But like if you are looking to reach out internationally, honestly, I think Twitter is the best place to do that. And not only you're not doing that just to get a job, you're doing that to have a portfolio yourself. Because I imagine that everything you put out would be based on the field you want to work in, and that might be useful for like when you're asked for links to past projects and things you've done. Those might also should also come in handy. So I think generally just having a good like online trail of what you've done and you can show it is useful for people here.
So being able to show your work. So I rudely interrupted you. We were talking through like what kind of advice you would have in sequence. So first off, get your internet sorted as best you can. Second off, like
But
like um second off, like start making local contacts and ask them
yeah,
what kinds of things would you encourage folks do next. So maybe they're getting out and they're meeting people, they're active on Twitter or they're active on I'm not even on Facebook anymore. I don't know how many developer or technology groups there are, but they're active on social media and they're writing things, they're talking about things. Is this time to start applying directly to jobs?
yeah. Well, someone I know said like never go the web form routes where you just submit stuff randomly on an application on a job portal rather. Like it's best to go through someone who's probably a team member already who might be able to put in a word for you, at least ensure that your application gets seen. Because in some instances, some companies won't even get back to you. But like if you know someone already on that team, then it's easier to get your foot in the door. And then Twitter allows you, yeah, Twitter again, like most people have their, you know where most people work, so it's
You can kind of track them down.
well, if you get to this bit, but you can. It's easy to like cold message someone and like say, "Hey, I need to apply for this role. Here's all the stuff I've done. You can check out my GitHub, check out LinkedIn, and if the person checks it out and says that it looks good, then they might be willing to do an intro for you. But you can't do all of that if you don't have a track record of things you've done already.
So you need to be able to show what you've built or show where you've worked or show what you've worked on before you start reaching out to people. If you say, "Hey, I'm so and so, I really want a job, but I don't really have a LinkedIn page or portfolio site or a GitHub account." It's probably going to be it's probably going to be incredibly hard.
Yeah, especially if they don't know you.
Yeah. So I really think your advice is interesting because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you have to go through your network instead of applying to jobs." And that's not very good advice to me. Like go through your network to folks who don't have a network seems gently mysterious. But you've given us like really solid advice. So here's how to present yourself. Here's how to build a network. You may want to go through this network instead of directly applying to places, which I think is a really good point. What kind of advice might you have to somebody who feels like they're already doing all of this and it's still hard? Do you have any encouragement? Do you have any extra tips? Do you have any warnings?
Well, they should keep at it, I guess. It can be a bit difficult because, like, even if sometimes you know the right people and you have the right connections, even like scaling through the interview processes, that's another story.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what an interview process for a remote job might look like? What might the process be? So I've gotten in touch with one of my contacts. I've said, "Hey, I'm interested in this job." Maybe I've given them a CV or a resume. Maybe I've given them some links to my work. What might happen next?
Okay, so if the company likes you or they're interested in just having like an intro call to see where you're at or if you might be a good fit or something, then they might set up a call with a recruiter. That's usually about 30 minutes just to like both of you to know that there are humans on both ends communicating and just to get a feel for like who the person is. And then for Android rules, there can be, it varies from company to company. Some companies have coding challenges on whatever online platform they want to use. Some will give you like take home assignments for a week or two, like work on stuff and then get back to us with the code. And all they want to see there is how you structure your, not necessarily how well you can code, but just like how you structure building applications and the tools you use, your thought process, and everything. And then the hardest part of the stage for someone from Nigeria, however, is say they make it to the on-site interview, for example, and they need to get visas to go to those countries to at least meet the team, because I know that some companies are particular about visiting the team and maybe staying for about 3 weeks just for people to know you and then going back or something.
And for visas as well. Yeah.
Because visa applications with the Nigerian passport, I hear we're currently 93rd. We rank, our passport currently ranks 93rd out of all the passports in the world, and it can get really difficult to get visas. So, like, it's either it's delayed for so long or it gets denied, and yeah. So, that's usually the hardest part.
Yeah, so that's a real shame that the most exciting part is getting all the way to where somebody wants to fly you out to a fancy interview, but that you're likely going to be, or you may be, held up and waiting and having a challenging time. So I want to sort of change the approach to our conversation a little bit. We've been talking, hopefully, very directly to folks who are interested in, maybe they're based in Nigeria, maybe they're based somewhere else in the area, and they're interested in finding a remote job, maybe a remote job with an international company. Or maybe we've just got some listeners who are really interested in tech in Nigeria overall. I want to sort of change the approach and I want to talk to companies. If you're a company trying to hire talent, do you think that more international companies should be like actively looking to hire out of Nigeria right now?
Oh my God, yes. Like, what are they waiting for?
Yeah, why? Well, I've got some opinions on why, but like, why do you think? Like, let's pitch it. Hey, company, or like, hey, CTO, you should come and hire in Nigeria because.
We have a lot of talented folks. That's the major reason. And then if they're looking for a chance to get access to brilliant people from other parts of the world, then I feel they can easily get a lot of them here.
This is a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just like if the company is building like a global product, it would be good if they have diverse people on the team so they can hear viewpoints from all sides.
Like, especially for a company building a product or building a service that they want people using in Nigeria. Like, how are you going to do that unless you've got the team representing the people you'd like to sell for?
Yeah.
If we were talking to an employer, what would be your advice for first steps? Let's say I'm an employer. I'm going to make myself more fancy. I'm a CTO. I've always wanted to be a CTO. I'd be rubbish at it.
Nah.
I'm a C. I would just hire everybody. Um, I'm a CTO. I've heard this podcast. I'm really excited about the idea of all of the talent that's based in Nigeria right now. Where would I start? Who should I connect with online? Who should I read? Should I get in touch with you?
Okay, well, I know there are a couple of communities that have these weekly newsletters that go out, developing newsletters to a number of subscribed devs. There's the follow-up newsletter. It goes out twice a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, I think. And that really reaches a lot of people. So it's easy to get like a job posting in there, for example, and when people read it, they can apply to it. Or even just posting it on Twitter and specifying like you're open to remote roles, you encourage people from wherever regions to apply and maybe tagging a couple of people on those. And once they see it, then they can share with their own network.
Fantastic. And what kinds of things would you like companies or people hiring in Nigeria to remember or to think about? So you've talked a little bit about the challenge of getting a really good internet provider.
Yeah.
And you've talked about the challenges of visas, that maybe if you're looking to hire in Nigeria, maybe it's good for you to come on site and do some interviews instead of trying to fly people out. What other tips would you have for employers looking to hire some of this great talent?
Okay, well, I think they should be a bit patient because when I started work, sometimes I would like join a meeting and then because my connection was a bit poor, I'll keep dropping off. And it's really easy to get frustrated in those instances, but they never make me feel bad about it. So, like, being patient in that aspect. And then for room for the on-site things, if they can consider like still having that remote, that would go a long way.
Yeah.
So like instead of maybe insisting on them flying in, then maybe they can also continue the interviews the same way online.
So think really critically.
Like just be patient overall, because things that might seem to work pretty fast, or like without having to think about it over there, might take a while to happen here.
Fantastic. So if I've listened to this podcast and I'm really, really interested in your work, where can I find you online? You mentioned Twitter. Can I follow you on Twitter?
Oh yes, on Twitter at Moyen, Myehean. I am on GitHub. I used to write on Medium, but I have my own website now. That's moyoluwa.dev. It's also on my Twitter handle, and that will link you to everywhere else I am on the internet.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's just been a joy to chat to you.
Thanks for inviting me.
And thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you listening to the Pursuit Podcast. If you want to check us out on Twitter, we're at Pursuit Pod. Until next time, this has been Jessica Rose, your host.